So in this video, I want to talk about what I think will be a controversial opinion, which is why I enjoy the anime over the light novels when it comes to the Eminence and the Shadow. So a couple of things to be very clear on. I am up to volume 3 of Eminence and the Shadow, so I am ahead of the actual anime itself, and I have not read the manga, because I've seen a lot of comments of people being like, oh, well, the manga's so much better than the anime, it's so much better than this, that, and I think a lot of that's just to do with the fact that it tries to add much more comedy in the manga. I'd have to read the manga to really know for sure if that's the case, or if it's, I don't know, again, it's all an opinion, so I could sit there and say maybe it's over-exaggerated, and I'm just saying, maybe I could, but maybe it's not. It's all just comes down to an opinion, and this is just my opinion as well, so we all have to be respectful of each and everyone's opinion, which is why I ask that in this video, if you don't agree, please keep it civil, don't get into personal insults, which I've noticed has become a reoccurrence in some videos where everything just turns into a personal insult. If you don't agree with something, it just goes from, well, how dare you have that opinion? You can only have my opinion. You have to say my opinion out of your mouth. If everyone had the same opinion, it'd be a very boring world. Every video on the internet would just be hearing what you want to hear. That's not interesting, that's not entertaining, that's just boring. But for me, and I know this will be a bit of a controversial take on it, is that I'm not really sure why 100% why I enjoy the anime over the light novels. It could be for a number of different reasons. I think I have an idea why, but I'm not 100% sure. It's just one of those where it's like a gut feeling. When I read the light novels for Eminence and the Shadow, I kind of stop and I think to myself, I kind of would enjoy this more if I was watching it rather than reading it. And that's not saying that I think the light novels are bad. The light novels are good. It's just, personally, I would prefer to watch it over reading it in the light novel format. Now, maybe the manga might be a different experience altogether. And I thought this was the only light novel series that I've ever felt about. But there's actually one other, and that was Slime. But there was a different reason for that. And a lot of that I kind of worked out in my head after reading more and more and more of Slime, is that the pacing for the Slime light novels is something that I personally aren't the biggest fan of. I feel like the Slime light novel pacing can be very slow at points, especially when it gets into politics. Now, other series that I read do politics, like Overlord, can get quite political when it comes to politics between different countries, negotiations, trades, Irons going over stuff, Albedo going over stuff, Demiurge going over stuff. But it's done in a way that it's not too long and drawn out. With Slime, it can be like 1/3 of the light novel, and these light novels aren't like thin either, they're quite thick, but like a whole 1/3 or even half of a volume, or even more sometimes, can be entirely built around politics and just the world building of what's going on between different countries and how they're trading and what's been built and the infrastructure and the technology development. And some of that can just feel a little bit tedious to read for me personally. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy the light novel series. It's just one of those where I'm like, I would prefer to watch it. And I have read the mangas for Slime, and that's why I do really enjoy reading the manga for Slime, because it does focus on more of the comedy aspect and the action aspect and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe it's just a different kind of spin for Eminence in the Shadow, and I think it's because of the comedy aspect and the character interactions, where in the light novel it comes down to your personal imagination because you're reading it and then you've got to envision it in your head. And yes, watching anime can help, but if you were just a pure light novel reader, then it'd be a little bit more different. But for me personally, like reading it, it's a very different experience than, say, like Jobless Reincarnation. So with Eminence in the Shadow, to me, it's a lot more focused on like some of the silly, outlandish kind of stuff going on with the main protagonist. His reactions, his way of talking, the facial expressions, not just from him, but others as well, and how they react to him, and how he can go from kind of energetic, with him putting on his performance of being Shadow, or when he's in his more simpler form of Sid, or when he's out in the arena and he's pretending to be someone else all again, Mundane, the character. There's different tones, facial expressions, and especially with the other girls part of the squad, the way they interact with each other, they all have their own ways of doing that, and I just feel like the anime does a really good job at that. Now, let's just say the anime's pacing was a lot faster, they skipped a lot more stuff, the animations wasn't as good, they didn't put as much of the fun interactions in there, like the facial expressions just weren't done as good, maybe then I might enjoy the light novels more than the anime. But I think because the anime is done so well, the pacing is just so spot on, it goes over every detail, but it's not over the top. It's done in such a way that it feels like the pacing is really quite good. Now, again, just a personal opinion, that might be why I enjoy the anime more than the light novels, because it's really bringing to life the flavor from the actual light novels itself. Now, again, manga could be a very different experience. I haven't read the manga, just want to be very clear there again. So that might be why, or it might be cool for a different number of other reasons, and that's why I'm really excited and hoping that we will get more Eminence in the Shadow, because it's meant to be 20 episodes, so we've got one more episode coming out for the Eminence in the Shadow, and there has been some talk, I've talked about it on the main channel, that there's meant to be some rumor, and I always say take them with a grain of salt, that there might be more coming for Eminence in the Shadow, maybe later this year, but I would take that with a real pinch of salt. But I do think that Eminence in the Shadow will get some form of continuation, because there are 3 more other volumes out in the Japanese release. Clearly the author's probably working on more. Hopefully we get more volumes more frequently than between volumes 4 and 5, because it was a bit of a long wait. So the anime with 20 episodes has covered 2 volumes with a little bit from another volume later, but that's a little bit different. So there's still 3 volumes to work with. So there's enough material for another season of 20 episodes, but I just don't think that will happen straight away. It's one of those things where it's best to pace it so that it doesn't go through the source material too quickly. But this is a series that's very popular, very beloved. It's got some really good merchandise coming out. So I fully expect that there will be some form of a continuation. But for me, I am wondering if I might just wait for more of the anime to come out rather than reading the light novels, because I don't know, I just really am enjoying it. I still haven't decided. I might continue reading the light novels and do my reviews on them. But for me, it's just one of those where I stop reading it for a while, and then I kind of think to myself, I really would prefer to experience this from an anime point of view for the first time. Because when you read something and then you go and watch it, you know what's coming, especially if it's sticking this loyal to the source material. You know what's coming, so the surprise and the enjoyment of an anime only is kind of lost to you. And I think sometimes light novel readers don't understand completely, because they read so many light novels, they read everything they can find. They don't understand why anime-only fans sometimes don't want to read the source material, because they enjoy that surprise each week of what is to come. That being also said, is that you could then read the source material after it's finished, but then that means you kind of spoil any future installments that are coming out. And that's the thing, it's one of those where you get a very different experience if you're an anime only compared to a light novel or a manga reader. But also that is that the style of the story that Eminence in the Shadow is it does focus on a lot of the fun interactions between the characters and the comedy aspect, whether you like the comedy or not. Again, that's a personal opinion. For me, I just feel like I get the best experience watching it rather than reading it, because it allows me to see all those interactions rather than having to imagine it. And that's the other thing though too, is that you may just sometimes just want to sit down, relax, and just not have to overthink things a little bit. With a light novel, you've got to imagine it, read it, etc. So it's a very different experience, and I'm still not 100% sure why I have that feeling that I enjoy the anime over the light novels. It's not because the light novels are bad. The light novels are great. Again, I want to point that out. The light novels are great. It's just I enjoy the anime over the light novels for obviously a reason that I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what it is. Slime, it was very different because of the pacing, the politics, and all that kind of stuff. But with other series like, say, like Damachi, I've really loved reading the light novels for Damachi, because I can really envision the world and everything, and it's not so much about the actual characters' expressions and stuff, but more how you feel when you read what's going on around them. So, different experience. Maybe I will discover what it is. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Why do you think I feel that way? And what do you think about the light novels, the anime, the manga? Whether you're an anime only, light novel, manga, etc. Definitely tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. And of course, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.